Welcome to Facts You Never Knew. This is not just a channel about sports. This is a channel about human limits, about pain, ambition, fear, and the price of greatness. Here, we tell the stories behind the gloves. The stories behind the champions, the stories behind the scars no one sees. Today, we enter one of the oldest and most dangerous arenas in human history, the squared circle, the ring. The place where men and women trade years of their lives for moments of glory. This is the true story of boxing. The lights dim, the crowd rises. A bell echoes through the arena like a warning. Two fighters stand across from each other. Their hands are wrapped. Their jaws are tight. Their eyes are locked. They are not thinking about money. They are not thinking about fame. They are not thinking about tomorrow. They are thinking about survival. Because in boxing, every punch carries history, every round carries risk, and every fight carries the possibility that someone will never be the same again. This is not just a sport. This is controlled violence, perfected over centuries. And its story is written in blood, the birth of a brutal tradition. Boxing is older than any modern sport. Long before stadiums, cameras, and pay-per-view, men gathered in dirt circles and fought with bare hands. In ancient Greece, boxing was part of the Olympic Games. In Rome, it became entertainment for crowds hungry for violence. In England, bare-knuckle prize fighting ruled the streets. There were no rounds, no gloves, no time limits, no doctors. Fights lasted until one man could no longer stand. Eyes were broken, jaws were shattered, hands were destroyed. Death was not rare, it was accepted. The ring was not a place of safety, it was a place of proof. Proof of courage, proof of dominance, proof that a man could endure what others could not. This mentality would shape boxing forever. The invention of the gloves and the illusion of safety. When boxing introduced gloves, many believed the sport had become safer. But the truth is darker. Bare-knuckle boxing caused cuts and broken hands. Gloved boxing caused brain damage. With gloves, fighters could punch harder, they could punch longer. They could punch the head repeatedly without breaking their hands. Concussions became common, knockouts became celebrated, and invisible injuries began to accumulate inside the skull. The crowd saw excitement, the brain absorbed trauma, and the long-term consequences were still unknown. The first modern tragedies in the early 20th century, boxers began dying after fights. They would collapse in the locker room. They would complain of headaches. They would fall into comas. Doctors discovered bleeding in the brain. The term punch drunk entered the language. Fighters who once moved like lightning now walk slowly. Their speech slurred, their memory faded. They had survived the ring, but the ring had followed them. The golden age and the hidden cost as boxing grew, so did the legends. Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, Sugar Ray Robinson, they became heroes. But behind the glory, their bodies paid a silent price. Many suffered neurological damage. Many struggled with depression, many died young. The crowd celebrated knockouts, the fighters carried the damage forever. When a fight becomes a funeral, one of the darkest moments in boxing history came in 1982. Duk Koo Kim, a young Korean boxer, fought Ray Mancini for the world title. The fight was brutal, round after round. Both men absorbed punishment. In the 14th round, Kim collapsed. He never regained consciousness. He died days later from brain injuries. His mother later took her own life. The referee committed suicide. 3 deaths, 1 fight. The boxing world was forced to look at itself. Rules were changed, championship fights were shortened. Medical protocols were tightened, but the danger remained. Legends, brain damage, and the real price of greatness. The world remembers champions for their victories, for their belts, for their records, for their moments of glory. But history often forgets what those moments cost. Because in boxing, greatness is paid for with years of your life. Muhammad Ali, the greatest and the most damaged. Muhammad Ali is considered the greatest boxer of all time. Speed, power, charisma, courage. He changed sports, politics, and culture. But he also became the most famous example of boxing's hidden enemy, Parkinson's disease. Years of absorbing punches, years of head trauma, years of wars in the ring slowly destroyed the neurons in his brain. By the time the world saw him light the Olympic torch in 1996, his hands trembled, his speech was slow, his body no longer obeyed his mind. The same man who once moved like poetry in motion now fought just to hold a microphone. He was still a legend, but he was also a warning. The silent epidemic, punch-drunk syndrome. Doctors began to study retired fighters. They noticed a pattern: memory loss, mood swings, aggression, depression, confusion, dementia. The term chronic traumatic encephalopathy (CTE) entered medicine. Repeated blows to the head were slowly killing brain cells. Not in one dramatic moment, but over years. Over thousands of punches, over countless sparring sessions. Boxers were not just risking knockouts, they were risking who they would become later in life. The mafia, corruption, and fixed fights for decades, boxing was controlled by organized crime. Promoters, managers, and fighters were trapped in dirty contracts. Some fighters were forced to lose, some judges were bribed. Some careers were destroyed for refusing to cooperate. The ring was not only a place of physical danger, it was a place of psychological and financial exploitation. Fighters who came from poverty were promised wealth. Instead, many were controlled, threatened, and used. When the body can nitrogen monoxide longer protect the brain as the sport became more professional, the punches became harder. Training became scientific, nutrition improved. Strength and conditioning created faster, stronger athletes. But the human brain did not evolve, it remained fragile. A modern heavyweight can generate over 5,000 newtons of force with a single punch. That force travels through the skull directly to the brain. One punch can cause concussion, microbleeding, neural damage, permanent loss of function. Multiply that by thousands of punches over a career. The result is often irreversible. The rise and fall of champions. Many champions leave the ring undefeated, but very few leave unbroken. Some develop speech problems. Some lose emotional control. Some forget entire periods of their lives. They remember the cheers, they forget the names of their children. The ring gave them fame, it also took pieces of their future. The modern era, safer, but still deadly today, boxing has medical suspensions, brain scans, concussion protocols, better referees, better gloves. Yet tragedies still happen, fighters still collapse. Fighters still suffer brain hemorrhages, fighters still die. Because no amount of regulation can fully protect the brain from repeated trauma. Tragedies, fatal accidents, and the true cost of the ring when a fight turns into a funeral. Boxing is one of the few sports where death is not a metaphor, it is real. It is documented, it is remembered by families long after fans move on. Throughout history, fighters have entered the ring healthy and left it on stretchers, never to walk again. Some collapsed immediately. Some walked to the locker room, spoke to their trainers, smiled, and then fell into a coma. Brain hemorrhages do not always announce themselves with drama. Sometimes they arrive quietly, and by the time they are discovered, it is already too late. Benny Parrott vs. Emil Griffith, the fight that changed rules in 1962. Benny Parrott faced Emil Griffith. The fight was brutal. In the 12th round, Parrott was trapped on the ropes. Griffith landed punch after punch after punch. Parrott was unconscious, but still standing. The referee hesitated, the crowd screamed. Finally, the fight was stopped. Parrott collapsed. 10 days later, he died from massive brain damage. The footage still exists. It is studied in medical schools. It is shown to referees. It is a reminder that hesitation can kill. Duck Koo I am the death that shook the world in 1982. Duck Koo Kim fought Raymond Ching. 14 rounds of war. Kim collapsed after the fight. He was taken to the hospital. Brain swelling, hemorrhage, surgery, coma. For days later, he died. But the tragedy did not end there. His mother, devastated by grief, took her own life months later. The referee of the fight, haunted by guilt, also committed suicide. 3 lives lost, 1 boxing match. The sport was forced to change. Championship fights were reduced from 15 rounds to 12. Medical suspensions became stricter. But no rule can erase risk. Modern tragedies, the danger is still here even in recent years. Fighters have died. Patrick Day 2019 collapsed after a fight in Chicago. Brain injuries, never woke up. Hugo Santillan 2019 died after suffering a brain hemorrhage following a bout in Argentina. Maxim Dadashov 2019, although primarily a boxer, his death shocked all combat sports. Repeated blows led to brain swelling and death days later. They were young, they were trained, they were medically cleared. They still died. Weight cutting, starving for survival. Another silent killer is dehydration. Fighters drain their bodies to make weight. They stop drinking water, they sit in saunas. They wear plastic suits. Their organs shrink, their blood thickens. Their brains lose fluid. A dehydrated brain is more vulnerable to impact. A single punch becomes more dangerous. Several fighters across combat sports have collapsed or died due to extreme weight cutting. The skill becomes as dangerous as the ring. The psychological aftermath for those who survive, another battle begins. When the cheering stops, when the gloves are removed, when the body no longer responds, many fighters face depression, anxiety, nightmares, identity loss, addiction. They were once warriors. Now they are alone with their thoughts. Some miss the danger, some miss the structure. Some miss being feared. The ring gave them purpose. And then it took it away. The children of boxers behind every fallen fighter is a family. Children who remember hospital rooms instead of arenas, wives who become caretakers, parents who bury sons, the public sees highlights. Families live with consequences. Every belt has a shadow, every trophy has a cost. Why they still fight and yet they still step into the ring? Why? Because boxing is more than violence. It is identity, it is escape, it is a way out of poverty. It is a way to prove worth. It is a way to feel alive. For some, the risk is worth the chance at immortality. The bell rings, the crowd roars, the lights shine. But beneath the spectacle lies a truth older than the sport itself. Every punch takes something, every round steals something. Every career leaves a mark. Some marks are on the face. Some are on the body, and some are on the brain and the soul. Boxing creates legends, but it also creates ghosts. This is facts you never knew, where we don't just celebrate champions. We honor the sacrifices behind them. If this documentary moved you, educated you, or made you see the sport differently, like, subscribe, share. More stories are coming. More truth, more history, more respect for the warriors who stepped into the ring knowing that every fight could be their last. Because in boxing, glory is temporary, but the damage can be forever.